Okay, going to talk for about 30 minutes. I've got hopefully some interesting content, everything from stats to case studies to practical information. Please feel free to ask questions as we go along. It's quite difficult to manage the webinar software and the presentation and speak all at the same time. So if I don't spot the questions as we go along, I will do my best to answer them all at the end. So let's begin. Okay, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Matt Alder. I am the founder of a company called Metashift. Metashift, we tend to work with larger employers and larger recruitment companies, helping them with their strategy around innovation. So mobile is obviously a very important part of that in terms of helping people understand how it fits into their strategy and how they can attract the best people the best people to their company. I'm also the founder of 3Sparks, which is a mobile software company, and our key product is Pocket Recruit, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later in the presentation. So this is essentially what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the mobile landscape, a little bit about mobile apply. Mobile apply seems to be the kind of biggest talking point, the biggest blocker for people when it comes to mobile recruiting. So I just want to kind of cover off the state of play with that. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about context and content, which for me are by far the most important parts of putting together a mobile recruiting strategy. I'm going to show you a case study of someone I've worked with and what they've done and how they've answered a lot of the sort of issues and questions that I'm going to cover, and then finally talk a little bit about where to get help, people who can help you, and also a very useful free resource. So let's talk about the landscape. Now, apologies to anyone who saw me present at OnRec this week, because my opening slide here is exactly the same, just to reassure you that the rest of the content of the presentation is completely different. So please stay on the line, as it were. Okay, so this is the key thing for me about mobile. I don't know how many of you have used the app Halo. It's absolutely brilliant. This is a screenshot I took this morning. That's not my real address for any stalkers out there. But basically, if you've not seen it, what it allows you to do is it uses the GPS device in your phone to tell you what black cabs are near you. You can hire the black cab by pressing the pick me up button, and then essentially it just bills it to your credit card, and it's kind of a whole new way of getting a taxi. Now, my point here is, if we were doing this webinar 5 or 6 years ago, and I told you about this magic app where you could pay by credit card, you could see literally taxis going past you, in this case on the Westway around the corner, you'd think I was mad, and you'd think that this was somehow magic or witchcraft, and it would never catch on and never be relevant. Obviously, our expectations with mobile change very, very quickly. So now, when I talk to people about Halo, they think, if they've not used it before, that's a good idea, and download it. No one looks shocked anymore about what it does. So basically, very, very quickly, we get used to incredibly high levels of technology in mobile, and it's important to realize that your target audience, the people you're trying to employ for your organizations, or if you're a job board or an ad agency, your client's target audience, this is where their expectations are in terms of the careers experience they're expecting to access on their mobile phones. Lots of these kind of presentations have huge graphs about the exponential growth of mobile and how smartphone growth is booming and all that kind of stuff. I used to do that kind of thing. Then I found this stat, and I think this kind of says it all. So basically, within 4 years, 71% of the world's literate population will have a smartphone. That's an incredible stat. That's more people than are connected to the internet at the moment. So really, that tells me everything I need to know about the growth of mobile. The other thing about mobile is it's not actually mobile. So whenever I talk at conferences about mobile job seeking, a significant proportion of the audience think I'm talking about looking for jobs on the way to work on your phone. Actually, the majority of mobile internet access happens on Wi-Fi in the home. So basically, our mobile devices aren't necessarily things that we use on the move. They're becoming our primary access point for the internet. So think about how you use the internet at home. Your first port of call is probably your smartphone or your tablet, as opposed to going into another room, trying to find your laptop, waiting for it to boot up. So this is how we use the internet. When people say to me, why do I think mobile recruiting, mobile is so important to recruitment? Well, basically, if mobile is becoming our primary access point, the mobile internet is different to the desktop internet. So effectively, the internet is changing. And if the internet is changing, then digital recruitment has to change. And that, to me, is why it's so important. Mobile's also social. It's impossible to disconnect the two. You'll see from the slide on the screen now, 4 out of 5 daily users are logging onto Facebook via a smartphone or a tablet. Now, anyone who's used Facebook via a smartphone or a tablet and also uses it on a desktop will know that the experience is actually worse. Even though they've improved it, the Facebook mobile app doesn't allow you to do as much as the desktop version does. However, convenience says that we use the desktop app more. So the implications for this is if you're spending time and money putting together a social recruiting strategy and you don't have a mobile strategy to back it up, you don't have landing pages or microsites or a mobile enabled career site, then effectively you're probably wasting your time and wasting your money. And more on that a little bit later, because I've got a little bit of case study that kind of explains that a bit more. The other thing about mobile is when we're on our mobiles, we're looking for highly targeted information. We're normally doing something else at the same time. We might be watching TV or whatever it is. Basically, we want to act quickly. We need to get the information that we're looking for very fast. So interesting statistic here, 70% of mobile searchers act, as in make a purchase, register, complete some kind of action within an hour. Only 30% of desktop searchers do that. So when we're in desktop mode, we're very much in sort of, sit back research mode. When we're in mobile mode, it's a very action orientated medium. So as we'll see, because of that, I don't believe a one-size-fits-all careers experience is what you need as an employer. As an employer, you need to be building segmented landing pages and sites that give your target audience the information they require straight away. This stat on the screen now, to me, is the smoking gun of mobile recruiting. It only came to light a couple of days ago. Google were presenting at the same OnRec conference that I was, and they came up with this stat. And I'm used to seeing, I'm used to seeing big numbers around mobile recruiting, but this one just really blew me away. So 88% of UK job seekers have used a mobile device in their job search in the last year. 88%. That to me is incredible. What I find from most companies is their mobile traffic can be anywhere between sort of 10% to 30, sort of 35% on their corporate website. And that to me says they're not giving mobile job seekers the right experience, the right landing pages, or making those mobile job seekers find their information as easy as they can. Because you can see here that that statistic is amazing. 88% of UK job seekers. I'm never going to get tired of saying that. 88%. So I just wanted to kind of show you this right near the beginning. These are some stats from UPS in the USA. They've been doing mobile recruiting really effectively now, probably for about 18 months, and they have a full mobile apply process. And a couple of weeks ago, they released these stats. So if you think that the Google stat isn't a smoking gun, I think these are really, really interesting because this is an employer putting this kind of stuff into practice. So in 2012, UPS had 14,000 trackable hires from social media. So they track everything they do. They know that 14,000 of the people they hired had interfaced in some way with their social media platforms. 10,000 of those applied via the mobile apply process. So they went all the way through, all the way through on their mobiles, effectively. 10,000 hires. How did that break down? Well, 27% of their hourly hires applied on mobile. So these tend to be people who don't have a formal CV and don't have a LinkedIn profile. So they built a mobile apply process that worked for that kind of audience, but also 17% of their professional hires applied on a mobile, and they have kind of full ATS integration with their mobile apply process. You can apply with your LinkedIn profile, all that kind of stuff. So those numbers were just absolutely staggering in terms of how UPS as a company are absolutely capitalizing on the mobile opportunity and probably hiring these people under the noses of their competition. One of the biggest objections that I hear about mobile apply processes, mobile recruiting, is the thought that somehow being mobile, you're opening up the floodgates to huge amounts of irrelevant applications. Now, in UPS's experience, that's not the case. So what they found was the quality of people who applied on mobile, in terms of the percentage that got through to the interview stage, was higher than those who applied on desktop. So obviously, this is only one example. It's the first big example that's out there, but the numbers just blew me away. So it kind of really shows you, what the potential is, and with careful strategy, careful delivery, what can be achieved. Now, obviously, because of the time of day that we're doing this webinar, most of the audience is from the UK. I know there are a couple of West Coast American guys who got up early to listen. But I know that some of you will be thinking, well, that's the US. That's not relevant to us in the UK. We're always different. Our audiences are different. And you'd be right. So our audiences are different because our audience is even more mobile savvy than the US audience. So this is a bit of data taken from a survey that LinkedIn did. And LinkedIn actually surveyed some of their members, asked them about various activities they'd undertaken on a mobile, and they compared the US audience to the UK audience. The UK audience is the red line on this chart, and the US audience is the blue line. So basically, from what is probably a reasonably small sample, but we can see that actually the UK job seeking audience is up for this. In some ways they're more savvy than the US audience. The only big case study so far is a US company getting phenomenal results. So it doesn't take much to see there's a huge opportunity here. There's also a huge threat that you'll be missing out on top talent if you don't get your mobile strategy into some semblance of order. So let's move on and talk a bit about mobile apply. So what are the options that are out there at the moment? There's actually quite a few. I think that when mobile apply comes up in conversation, people tend to think it's too difficult, it can't be done, and actually there are loads of practical solutions out there that companies are already using. So the first two, a lot of organizations basically just use simple data capture on their mobile site. So if they're trying to recruit really hard to find people, they're just looking for leads for their in-house recruitment team, they can capture data, they can capture LinkedIn profiles. Very, very easy to do. Also, on this slide, I'm kind of trying to illustrate the most popular way of currently doing mobile apply, which isn't actually mobile apply at all. It's allowing people to search for jobs on a mobile, to find a job that interests them, but then to email them a link so they can apply. They can apply to the job on their desktop. Now, I think if it's possible to make your apply process mobile, you should do. But also, I recognise that for lots of organisations, that's neither practical, possible, or sometimes even desirable. So even if as an organisation you have a really complicated application process for a really good reason, and I think you should check and see that it is for a really good reason, there's no reason why you can't use a method like this. And email people back a link so they can take time to apply on the desktop if that's the way you absolutely have to work. So, that doesn't exclude you from this at all. Apply with LinkedIn is being very much used in the mobile space. It's really interesting. LinkedIn came out with their reply button quite a while ago. I remember at the time thinking that it was a bold, interesting move. The uptake's been quite significant. I'm sure there are some people on the call who already use it, and it's interesting to see that Indeed and Monster are releasing their own apply buttons now. So, the job boards, the the professional networks, they really get mobile recruiting because they get so much traffic from it. And I see these apply buttons as a way of going for a land grab in the mobile ecosystem. So really, really interesting, but also, giving users lots of opportunities to apply with pre-registered CVs. So LinkedIn does this, Monster do this, Indeed do this. Then we have a cloud-based upload of a CV, so via Dropbox or Google Drive. This can be really effective. However, some people think this is the kind of nirvana of mobile apply. It's what everyone does. Very, very good for maybe a more tech-savvy audience. I think what you've got to be very clear about is not everyone uses Dropbox or Google Drive. And you need to make sure that people have the right kind of the right kind of choice. So Dropbox, Google Drive. See, I keep making the mistake of trying to read the questions as I'm trying to present. So I'll stop doing that and read them. I read them at the end. So let me just turn them off so I can't see them. Also, for more sort of complex processes, I know that UPS, for example, use a company called Jibe to integrate their mobile apply process with their ATS process. So there are a couple of companies out there who manage the technology to do that, Jive and another one called Mobile. These are really enterprise solutions. So this is kind of a long-term strategic play in terms of sort of making your career site mobile application work. So it's great that those options are out there. I'm sure they're right for a number of organizations. But bear in mind, you can do simpler things as well, or simpler things in the interim. Okay, so that was the sort of mobile apply update. I hope there was some stuff in there that was useful. I want to talk now reasonably briefly about content and context, because I think when we've got over our kind of mobile apply phobia, this is the real kind of crux of it. This is understanding how mobile content works and what happens. So to clarify, actually, when I'm talking about mobile, I'm always referring to the mobile web. So having a mobile friendly, mobile optimized version of a corporate career site or a landing page or a microsite that can be viewed on the mobile internet. I'm not talking about mobile apps at this point. I think mobile apps can be very useful for things like internal comms and potentially onboarding. I think for organizations to build a mobile app for talent attraction is a complete waste of time, if I'm honest. Research shows you that most people, although they have 50 odd apps on their phone, they only regularly use 5. So if you're putting a talent attraction app out there, you're competing directly with LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, email, all the things that people use their mobiles for. So When I talk about mobile, it's really about mobile web, M sites, those kind of things. So let's talk about content and context. So, in terms of context, I think there's three things going on that you need to think about as part of any mobile strategy: the physical context, the technology context, and the career context. So, to explain what I mean, physical context. There's a number of pieces to this. At a kind of a technology level, this is an advert for the new iPhone 5S, something I don't own yet, but I probably will at some point. But anyway, within it is it has an M chip that basically gives the phone a lot more information about where it is, how it's being held, all that kind of stuff. And it's been interesting. Was looking at someone last week who's actually kind of building some mobile recruiting technology that uses uses this functionality to tell whether people are searching for jobs under their desk by the way they're holding their phone. So, that's kind of a little way off in terms of being mass market. But the point here is understanding where someone physically is when they're accessing their data on your phone. UPS is an interesting example because obviously they're recruiting a lot of drivers. So physically, these people are out of the office. There's a great Facebook case study at OnRec from Maersk, the oil company, who use Facebook as their principal form of recruiting because they're targeting offshore people who use Facebook as their principal form of communication. So again, physical location context. Is that mobile? Yes, it is mobile because social is mobile, as I said earlier. So understanding the physical context is important. With mobile, it's understanding what someone was doing for the 3 minutes before they logged onto your career site on their mobile. So, how much time do they have? Where they are? What's their context? So, physical context is interesting. Technology context is really, really key for me. One of the biggest kind of confusions in this mobile space is the phrase responsive design. So whenever I speak to anyone, everyone seems to have a different definition of what responsive design is, and no one seems to know about adaptive design. Now, this is really, really important. If you're an employer, and we have loads on the call, and you're looking to an ad agency or a design agency to invest in building an M site for you, they really need to understand the difference between responsive and adaptive. So these are key questions to ask. Basically, responsive design basically builds a site, and the site's content rearranges as the screens get bigger and smaller. So lots of people build a kind of a one-size-fits-all responsive site for mobiles and leave it at that. Now, that's great to a certain extent. That's great if your target audience are all using the same type of mobile phone, but they just have different screen sizes. But that's not the case. There are a huge amount of different operating systems, different ages of phone out in the marketplace. There are still loads of people who use older Blackberries, people who use cut down versions of smartphones, all that kind of stuff. So what adaptive design does is it has a number of different templates, and it serves up that template depending on the device that someone's using. So the screenshot here is an example from Compare the Markets microsite for IT people. Basically, it's delivering off a kind of a full experience on an iPhone 5, a Samsung Galaxy S4 with video playable front and center. The middle phone is an older smartphone. It drops the video, replaces the video with just an image. And on the right, you've got an old BlackBerry. It drops the images altogether. So important in terms of experience, but also important in terms of download time. Google's recently announced that they're going to start penalizing sites that don't have an optimized version for mobile, but also penalizing sites that have an optimization for mobile that's very slow to load. So typically, if your mobile site takes more than 1 or 2 seconds to load, ultimately Google will start penalizing it in the search rankings. And one of the problems with just using responsive design is you can be downloading a very big template to a much older phone, and that's going to really hit the experience and the download times. So adaptive design is a really important thing to a really important thing to understand. So that's the sort of technology context. What type of phone are your target audience using? Do you have to cater for multiple types of phone? How does that actually work? And then finally, the career context. And there's two sides to this. There's the candidate's context. So if you're trying to reach a specific audience, is it an easy to recruit? Easy to recruit, you have huge amounts of applications, it's all about filtering, or are you targeting people that it's proven to be very difficult to find and bring into your organization? So that really should shape the mobile experience and the message that you're giving out. So, what is the potential candidate's kind of career, career context? Are they hard to find? Are they easy to find? Do they have an inbox full of LinkedIn emails they never open? How do you give them an experience that will persuade them that they should take your company seriously? And likewise, this works as an employer. So, if you're if you're dealing with roles where you get thousands of applications for 100 open positions, then you need to think about things in one way. If you're trying to target very, very difficult to recruit research scientists, you can't give them the same mobile experience and same mobile process as the other audience. So this is what I mean by segmentation. So understanding that context of, where's the potential candidate in their career? Do we get loads of applications for this kind of position, or is it really, really hard to recruit for? So that's important to understand as well. So that's what I mean by by context. Again, vitally important. So before I kind of get into the case study and start kind of winding up a bit, let's talk a little bit about content. Probably a presentation in its own right, but you need to think really carefully about the type of content that you might serve up as part of a mobile recruiting experience. So just some interesting stats on video. So 1.5 billion hours of YouTube video is watched per month on a mobile device. So I think that equates to about 1 in 4 YouTube video views are done on a mobile. And what I found working with clients is clients who have mobile content on their career site, it's far more engaging. People stay on the site far longer. They have more applications. It's much easier to persuade people. Mobile seems to work. Video seems to work very, very well with mobile. And that kind of goes back to my earlier slide, talking about how people are using the mobile internet on Wi-Fi connections in their home or in their office or whatever that is. Just to put that into a little bit more context, so that stat equates to 10 minutes per month of mobile video for every single person in the entire world. So again, it's kind of up there with the 88% stat from earlier. Video is the absolute key here. Despite video being the key, this unfortunately is what we see a lot. People using huge amounts of text because they use huge amounts of text on their desktop site, which, by the way, I don't think is the right thing to do, but people still do that. They just translate that over to mobile and use huge amounts of text. And it means that people can't see the call to action. They're having to scroll down to, view jobs or apply or register. And they're not going to read, necessarily read your content or scroll down and do that. So there's a real kind of balance and dynamic here between video content and written content. So as well as having a mobile platform strategy, you also have to have a content strategy. So unfortunately, I would be lying if I said that mobile recruiting is simple and straightforward, which is probably why so many organizations are struggling to get to grips with it. However, it's an absolutely must do. Mobile's not going to go away. All the numbers that I'm showing you are going to keep going up. You will have to do this at some point, and at some point reasonably soon. It can be difficult, it can be complicated. So that's why it might be a really good idea to start now and get to grips with it and move quickly. So having a content strategy becomes even more important on mobile. And let's remember that social media and mobile cannot be sort of ripped apart. So kind of important in that context as well. Okay, so just to finish off with a quick case study. This is a mobile site for Compare the Market. It's one that I worked on, and we built it using the Three Sparks Pocket Recruit platform, which I talked about right at the beginning. So how does this fit into what I've just spoken about? Well, in terms of context and content, rather than take all of their career site, the client built a very specific microsite for technology and IT people, because they find them, they find them a challenge to recruit for, and they wanted to make sure they got the right message to them in the right place. So the mobile site is purely for technology vacancies. You can see video front and center. Interestingly, people stay on the mobile site longer than they do on the desktop, and I think a lot of that is to do with the video on the homepage. And the video, you kind of go straight into the video. You don't have to scroll around to find it. Technology context, built on the Pocket Recruit platform. The Pocket Recruit platform automatically does adaptive design. So basically, it produces different templates for different devices, including including tablets, again, which is a slightly different format, slightly different design. And interestingly, the apply context. So in this case, the the recruitment team were just looking for leads. They wanted to know who had the right skills, who was interested in their organization, and they'd happily then phone them up and start the recruitment process that way. So even though a lot more could have been done, it was decided that the best context was to have a really kind of basic mobile apply process where people put in business card level data and their LinkedIn profile, get sent to the recruitment team, and obviously it's a it's a very strong lead for them to follow up, find out more about the person, and try and persuade them to join the organization. So this type of segmentation, and understanding the context is incredibly important, I think. And the key to this is really speed and flexibility. Being able to kind of build out these sites, being able to change the content, being able to change the apply process from campaign to campaign. These are all things that the recruitment industry has not been very good at in the past. Recruitment technology tends to be very slow moving, and we need to think about things differently. We're going to have to move a lot faster to keep up with the candidates and keep up with the times, and that's why because we built this site on the Pocket Recruit platform, you can basically make adjustments to sites on here in real time. You can have different application processes for different campaigns, all those kind of things, and that's why we built this. That's why we built this platform. So I don't talk about mobile because I have an involvement in a mobile software company. I have an involvement in a mobile software company because I see mobile as being so important, and I want to help to provide a solution, rather than just kind of talking about theory and talking about what people should do. It's great to be able to offer a practical option. So to summarize what I've been talking about, key points. Think about context. One size does not fit all. I think that the days of the everything in one place corporate career site are really coming to an end. I think social media has been starting to dismantle that. I think mobile will finish it off. So you really need to think about your different target audiences and how best to interface with them. And obviously the challenge for large organizations will be, well, how do we do that and still have the same consistency of recruitment process? It's a challenge. It's not impossible. It can be done. So really, I think the future for mobile is about landing pages. Are you doing social media activity? Shouldn't you be sending people through to a mobile landing page if they click through? And then you can send them off into various parts of your sort of desktop marketing or desktop process. But if you lose that crucial interaction from someone clicking through your social content when they're looking at a mobile and they go to a mobile unfriendly site or landing page, you've lost that person, and I would argue you've wasted your time with your social media. Cross-device compatibility is really, really important. It's very, very easy to think that just because a number of us have got the most up-to-date iPhone, everyone has. That's not true. For a start, Android is the most popular platform in the world. So most people actually have Android phones. I was working with a client last year. I did a whole kind of audit and review of everything they were doing in digital attraction. And they told me very proudly that they had a mobile and optimized website. So I went and looked at it on my iPhone, and they were right. It kind of worked. It could have been better, but it was a great start. I then checked it on a BlackBerry, not a BlackBerry, an Android. I checked it on a BlackBerry as well, but I checked it on Android, and it didn't actually work on the Android platform. So when I went in to present them, I asked them the question, is your corporate phone an iPhone? And they all nodded and waved their iPhones at me. And I also said, the ad agency you're working at, is their corporate phone an iPhone as well? And they nodded and said, yes, it was. So no one had actually looked at this site on the Android platform, despite the fact that the Android platform is the most popular platform. So cross-device compatibility, even at that high-end modern device level, is incredibly important. And just because it works on your phone doesn't mean it will work on the the phone that your target audience has. Key points around thinking about content. Targeted content. Is the content the appropriate content type? Video over text, pictures over text. Also call to action and conversion. As I said right at the top of the presentation, you're dealing with an audience that wants to act quickly. It's an action-orientated medium. So even if it isn't applying, if it's registering for a talent community, leaving an email address, finding out more, whatever it is, you need to make sure that your call to action buttons or whatever they are highly visible and they can get to them quickly. And again, that's sort of over many years, that's been a failing for online recruitment. We've not been very good at doing that. Just have a look at what some of the job boards do, because they are very good at doing that. And finally, is your apply process suited to your objectives? So lots of things going on there. Is it appropriate for your target audience? Is it appropriate for your process? Do you really need that 15-page application form? It may be that you do, but I would go back and challenge that and say, just because we've always done these things this way, do we always have to do them this way in the future? So, mobile is a really good crossroads to review everything and think about, what your recruiting might look like moving forward. What kind of technology you need. Is our legacy ATS the best way to go into this world? So lots of big questions, but also none of that stops you doing mobile quickly. Build some landing pages, build some microsites, start experimenting, email back people, send them to your existing recruitment process, see what happens, look at the numbers. So there are some big decisions and some big thinking to make, but you really shouldn't stand still on this. There are things that you can do straight away to make this happen. Okay, so finally, just where to get help. Obviously, this is me. Well, it's a very old picture of me. I don't quite look like that anymore, but it's me anyway. So if you want to talk any more about mobile strategy, I'll be happy to, happy to have a chat and see if there's anything I can do to help you. If there's not, there'll certainly be resources and advice I can point you in the direction of. If you're interested in Pocket Recruit as a delivery platform, principally it's targeted at RPOs, ad agencies and job boards, but there are some employers using it as well. Speak to Jimmy Goldsmith. He's the client partner for that particular product. And then finally, it wouldn't be fair without giving some kind of extra free resource. So 3 Sparks, we're producing our latest guide to mobile recruiting. This is the 3rd year we've done it, so you might have read the 2011, the 2012 guide. Me and Dave Martin are writing it at the moment. Should be ready by the end of October. Chris Hoyt from PepsiCo is writing the foreword for us. He's doing lots of really interesting stuff in mobile in the US. Basically, because you registered for this webinar, I will send you an email when this is ready to download, so you can get a copy of it automatically. So that's it in terms of the formal part of the presentation.